cozy in for this one, shall we? If you are a woman that's ever dealt with and struggled with low self-worth in your life, if you had an absent father growing up, this video might explain a lot more than you realise, so let's unpack this gently. Welcome to my first official video on this channel done a completely different way. If you don't know me, I am Steph. I'm a mindset and identity coach. I wanted to make this the first topic of conversation because this is actually one of the most defining things that has happened to me personally that made me actually become a mindset coach and an identity coach for other people. And it's a huge part of my own story and why exactly I am sitting here across from you and having this conversation today. So this video isn't about blaming men at all, I just want to put that out there. It's about what that little inner child feels, that little girl inside feels when her first experience of the masculine isn't consistent and isn't present. Now I've got some notes so that I can just keep myself on track because I'm terrible for going off in a tangent, especially on topics like this where I feel like there's just so much to cover and there's so much to say. To start this video off, I just want to start by saying the father and daughter wound is probably one of the most minimised and overlooked wounds that can ever happen to a young woman or a woman. Many girls, including myself, and I'll go into my story a little bit later in detail, we grow up into womanhood and adulthood and we kid ourselves on that our self-esteem is fine and we're okay, especially if one parent was present still. So say you still had your mum but not your dad wasn't there, and that goes for, they could be physically in your life but not emotionally present. That also goes for that too. And so if you did have that one parent that was there, the pain gets dismissed because it's normalised, and we forget how big and massive of a thing it is to have a healthy masculine role model in our lives, and these affect women and men completely differently. But today we're touching on that father and daughter wound, and this wound often acts and plays out quietly through relationships, anxiety and our self-worth growing up. And this is exactly why I coach. So let's just talk about right now what a father actually represents and what's missed when that father figure is absent. So a father figure is our first representation of love, okay? So that is in itself a huge thing. It's feeling safe from that masculine, it's feeling protected, it's feeling chosen, it's learning how men actually treat women. That is who we look up to. That is our definition of what a man should be, okay? So when that is actually taken away and we don't have that as young women, that can breed so much distortion in our minds, our bodies, our souls. Healthy masculine is our security, it's our guidance, it's that emotional presence anchored in. It's that dropping it into your body as a little girl because you feel safe, because you have that healthy masculine around you. So when that's missing and when that's inconsistent, your nervous system doesn't learn safety with the masculine. It can't. It doesn't have anything to measure that up against when that's not there and it's not present. And so love becomes associated with absence and unpredictability and no effort or low effort. And so different ways the father wound can show up. A father doesn't have to be physically gone. I just want to point that out. A father doesn't always have to be physically gone from your life for the wound to exist. It can look like the masculine in your life, your father figure, is absent due to, addiction. It could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be escapism, gambling, overworking, emotional absence, working constantly, never available. And as children, we think, our parents are gone. Sometimes we think like, oh, they had to work, but we can say that down the line as an adult, like we can understand they had to work, but as a child, our nervous system doesn't know that. It doesn't know the difference between, your parents going out to work to make money. It just knows that they weren't there. It just knows the lack of presence, the lack of emotional regulation from your caregivers. So they can be gone in that respect as well. It's like being present but not present. So your body still experiences this as abandonment. And that abandonment wound can create such a heavy and hollowed out feeling for the daughter. And a lot of us grow up as women and we have all these self-destructive tendencies and we don't really know where that comes from. Our self-worth is impacted so much, but we don't really know why. Maybe we say, oh, like our dad wasn't present, but we don't know why we're acting in these ways. We say, oh, but we have like a loving mother, we have a great support system, we have friends. But at the end of the day, that masculine absence can be so detrimental to us growing up. And as I go through this video and we just touch on certain points, maybe this will land for you some of the things that I went through personally. Maybe you out there, this also happened to you, or you also went through this and maybe you don't know exactly how to work through that, and that's exactly what I hope these conversations can help with. You know, I'm going to show you how that I worked through this and how you can work through this, because you are not broken, you are not ruined because you are missing out on a family member. And it's when we have that knowledge and the awareness, such as listening to videos like this and listening to conversations like this and being able to sort of, you know, resonate with other women out there who have been through the same, you can understand how to navigate your life a lot easier with the information that you learn. So for my personal story, my father wasn't available emotionally and a lot of the time physically. That happened for me for many years, and that was between the ages of sort of 15 onwards, and that was due to alcohol addiction and my dad obviously not being present in his body and his mind, and for me, due to that stole most of my teenage years. In my early years of womanhood, it was like the roles were reversed. I became the parent to my parent, so it's like that typical parentified child. So I carried the pressure for him. And so when that role is reversed and you're so young and you're dealing with a lot of things, you know, I was dealing with school, high school, exams, I was dealing with becoming a woman myself, you know, boys, like all of these things, like you start to sort of have to navigate on your own. And when the male figure that you are supposed to look up to isn't there for support, isn't there for guidance, and actually you're having to watch them go through their own massive struggles with life, the pressure that creates, the shame within you that creates, is sometimes absolutely crushing. It can absolutely crush you. And at the time, I didn't really feel the weight of this because I was just acting in complete and utter survival mode, like, you know, fight or flight. And I wasn't really truly able to see the impact it had on me till later down the line. But I do know that from seeing these things and, you know, what I had to go through and what I internalized to be my fault through those years, it's just such a sad thing to now have let that have deterred how I showed up as an adult and the things that I, you know, let happen in my life due to not having that male role model, and that is so detrimental. So that shame and that guilt and your subconscious internalizing that, why wasn't I enough for him? Like, why wasn't I good enough as my father's daughter for him to not choose alcohol over me or addiction? Maybe some of you that are watching this are feeling that right now, you know, like that's maybe coming up for you. It's, why wasn't I good enough? Why did they choose that over me? And that pressure of having to witness, you know, your caregiver going through, you know, these things, or them just completely be absent from your life, is enough to throw us into a life of chaos. It's going to throw you into a life of sabotaging good love, healthy love, because you don't know how to hold that. You don't know what that looks like. And when it comes back to asking yourself that question of why wasn't I enough for him, and why didn't they choose me over, you know, the addiction, the leaving, the everything else that dads do that we don't understand, it makes us say to ourselves, maybe I need to become less, maybe I need less. And personally for me, even after the addiction improved for my dad, he's still technically in my life, but he's not emotionally present. If you're having that with your father figures, you know, like that surface level, there's no real depth. That grief is so complex, and you don't just lose them once, you lose them over and over and over in every interaction you have with your father. If, you know, they're still there, but they're not there, they're just out of reach, and that is so sad. That is so much for a daughter to carry, and of course that is going to create chaos for some women growing up, because they're not going to know how to base, you know, that love and security and safety from other men. And so how this shapes relationships with other men after, you know, you've gone through that with your father figure being absent. What does that look like? And so many women with a father wound, they'll chase emotionally unavailable partners. You know, it's that anxious and avoidant chase, because it's the avoidant. The avoidant is like the dad, because avoidant means they're not quite fully there, or they're not there at all. The avoidant wants love, but they don't know how to show that in a very healthy way. But they don't have that maybe emotional capacity, emotional depth to fully hold you. And then you've got the anxious partner, who usually is the woman, because they learned to chase love. And this isn't a flaw, this is just biology and trauma. This is how these things work, and this is typically how these things go in relationships. It's the avoidant and the anxious. Then the anxious usually chases that love. They chase that validation from the parent that they never got, and that shows up subconsciously, whether we like to admit that or not. Maybe you can think of, times in your life where that has happened and you've maybe not questioned it until right now. And your body always remembers, abandonment by that primary caregiver. Your body never forgets that. It's almost like it stunts the age of you that it happened at. You become that stunted young girl who is playing out that, cat and mouse chase to sort of get that love, usually in all the wrong places, until you have that awareness to seek better for yourself and change these patterns that are running your life, your subconscious patterns that are running from that low self-worth. And so love becomes something that you feel like you need to earn, something that feels, you have to chase that and hunt it down. It's the internalized belief that it creates. So like, I'm not good enough, I shouldn't need much, I should be grateful for these breadcrumbs that, my father gave me, if any. And I'm just going to say this right now, the bar that not having this masculine, strong father figure in our life creates sets the bar for us in hell. It is so low. And we even start to excuse, terrible behaviours from men because we have nothing to measure on, and we start accepting beyond the bare minimum. And this becomes a complete and inherent self-worth issue at the core. You accept that bare minimum, you accept disrespect, abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, because it feels familiar. It's a familiar hell, not because it's healthy. What is the emotional cost of having a life with an absent father figure? That father-daughter wound, chronic anxiety, hypervigilance in relationships. That was a huge one for me. Needing to know if they were okay, for me to be okay, that was a huge one. Constantly needing that reassurance, like if they weren't okay then I couldn't be okay. Constant self-doubt, feeling lost, unchosen, unseen, unheard. And it causes me deep heartbreak to actually watch other women live this too, because it has taken up so much of my life. It's engulfed so much of my younger, adolescence, where I should have not have had to worry about this. It's cost me so many choices because I didn't have the tools back then to make better decisions for myself. And why has this become my calling? This was one of the hardest wounds to ever heal for me. It's the reason I actually sought coaching in the first place for myself. Everything can usually be defined by something that we went through in our younger years that was so defining for us, that makes us show up in self-sabotaging and, negative ways down the line as an adult. And I did not choose this work randomly. It chose me, and I honestly believe that through my own healing journey, as I healed, I noticed something. I noticed how many times I dated my father and different people. It was like a mirror to remind you of your own self-worth, and I'm sure a lot of you can resonate with that as well. And people act as mirrors all the time to us. We just probably don't notice until we have that awareness. And I always tell my clients, like, knowledge is power. People are always going to be a mirror to us. They're going to hold up a mirror to what we still need to learn about ourselves to expand our next best level growth. And a lot of the people we date are mirrors for that. Some of us just choose not to see that and repeat the lesson over and over and over. And so my lesson, and many women's lesson in this father-daughter wound, is to stop chasing unavailable love. It's to love yourself back. And that took me so many years, and this is exactly why I want to help people, because if I can help people in a much quicker way than what I had to go through myself, because I had to start from scratch. I simply just didn't have the tools, I didn't have the support that I really needed to be able to, talk through this with anyone. And a lot of that time spent alone was just torturing myself internally, feeling like I wasn't good enough. And you will take that into relationships. and you will project that onto people. A lot of the time you will attract these men that aren't emotionally available for you, and they will reflect back to you that you need to just love yourself more. But we feel that we deserve that treatment because of the lack of father figure. And that is so sad, and we can waste many years until we learn this lesson. Men are our mirrors until we stop chasing that validation from people who quite simply aren't equipped to give us it fully. And the universe is just divine in this way, and this is why I love what I do now in hindsight, with all the knowledge I have, with being a certified mindset coach and someone who loves, working with the universe and these laws, and being on my own spiritual path, because that has helped me heal so much. It's divine because look at the lessons they present us with. Have a think about that right now. The universe will give us these lessons. It will gently show us where we're going wrong, show us where we can pivot. It will show up with these relationships over and over until we can give it back with grace and love, instead of, shame for ourselves. And then just like that, when we see ourselves as worthy of beautiful, deep, and lasting love internally for ourselves, the universe ushers it right in. And that's been my story as well. And it's the same with everything else. That's how the universe works. It's magic. Everything and everyone are lessons, in that if we integrate, which is the main point in this, it's the integration work. Once we've got that awareness, we shift into alignment and we get what is meant for us when we do that. And so now we've established what that kind of looks like in our lives and how that can play out so detrimentally and so catastrophically. And so what actually helped to heal the father-daughter wound? Because that is probably why most of us are here. We want to know how we can finally move through that and get out of that pain. And it is painful. It's a painful place to sit with. For many years, like I said, I really struggled to move through this. What really works is reparenting yourself. Reparenting that little girl and giving them that love from you as an adult who can cultivate that self-love for themselves and give it back. Reparenting the inner child is one of the most profound and the best thing we can actually do for ourselves. Reparenting, how do you do that? There are so many ways that you can do that. It's building that self-worth internally. It's building that self-esteem. And self-esteem can never be stolen from you unless you let it. Self-esteem isn't given to us by other people, although we spend most of our life thinking that it is built on what others think of us. It's when we can learn to cultivate that from us. It's when we can finally feel safe in our body. Our nervous system has to feel safe. If your nervous system is still in fight or flight from all those years of not having that father and letting those emotions and those feelings rush in and take over every reaction to everything our new partners do, it seeps into our relationships, or we just attract the wrong people from us over and over and over and sabotage the good love. It sabotages people who are just there to love you, and you will not be able to see that because it's so tainted with your subconscious fears. So regulating your nervous system is a massive component in healing that father-daughter wound for good. You do not need closure from that father. You do not need closure that may never come from that person in your life. That person that is absent in your life that was meant to father you may never come back. They may never, show up with an apology. And that is something we have the power to take back ourselves. We don't have to wait forever because that might never come. Another way I healed that was by investing in coaching, being coached and being heard and seen by someone that could hold me in that capacity, working through these feelings and peeling back those layers of all these fears and labels I had put on myself, the shame, the guilt, all of that which I'd carried over the years. Working with someone else is sometimes the thing that it takes to just completely transform your self-concept. And this isn't work we're supposed to do alone. It's relational, which means you have to relate to someone to move through that. And with that help, that can be the defining thing that helps you move out of that old traumatized version of you that you keep holding on to in the past. We need mirrors, we need mentors, and we need community to work through this. And when I moved to Costa Rica, I had met such a beautiful community of women who actually funnily enough, had been through the same in their lives, and they are now living these amazing lives for themselves because they've turned it around and they've actually used and transmuted and alchemized that pain into power. And they are now amazing women. They are powerful women. They are starting their own businesses. They're traveling the world. They are inviting in healthy love. And someone said this on a podcast the other day, and it has not left my mind, so I'm going to share it right now. To attract healthy people, you need to be a healthy person. And that is so real. And so when self-worth heals, finally, relationships change. Attachment patterns soften. And that anxious, avoidant chase finally stops. Your life will start to open up. Life will start to open up, and I promise you it will. You become a magnet for healthy people, beautiful connections to form, because you feel safe. When you feel safe in your body, you feel safe to receive, and that has been in that feminine place where we deserve to be nurtured, we deserve to be taken care of, and that little girl in us can finally relax. You will meet more aligned friendships, new opportunities will find you, and love no longer will feel like survival. And so if this video has resonated in any frequency, I am so glad. You're not broken, you're not alone, and healing this wound changes everything. And I'm just here to remind you that you deserve safety, commitment, effort, real depth and love, and it is possible. And I have done the work, and I've seen many other people that I've coached do the exact same and move out of that survival and into expansion and freedom and safety. Again, if this resonated, it doesn't mean like there's something wrong with you or with men. It just means our bodies learned in an environment that asked us to be strong too early, and bodies can learn something new. And I just want you to hold on to that truth. So I hope you could have taken something from this conversation today. And if you would like continued deeper support on this, I offer limited one-to-one sessions and my 7-week program that helps people move through this. Just reach out on Instagram or click on my link in my bio to be taken to my website to learn about more on how we can perhaps work together through this. If you were just here for the conversation and you learned something new today, I would really appreciate have some discussion in the comments, and know that you are totally seen, you are supported here, and you are loved. You can have a different life. You do not need to be stuck in survival forever. You can find true and healthy love, and you will be able to hold it. I promise you that. And so if you enjoyed this conversation, I will catch you on the next one.